Welcome to Om Times TV, a division of Om Times Media and Broadcasting. Welcome to Ascending with Venus Castleberg, a space where we explore the journey of spiritual awakening, expanding your consciousness and raising your frequency to create a whole new world. We'll dive into the possibilities that open up when you choose to follow the whispers and trust your inner knowing. Each episode is designed to guide you in expanding your awareness, tuning into your intuition, and discovering the magic of your life every day. We'll talk about living aligned with your soul's purpose, going beyond limitations, and creating a life and a world worth celebrating. You are here to embrace who you truly are and step into the infinite potential that's waiting for you. Let's ascend together. And now, here is your host, Venus Castleberg.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Andrea. I'm so happy to be here with you all today. Thank you for tuning in. I know that this show is a little bit different than what we usually do. However, there's a reason, there's a method to the madness. And I really wanted to bring Andrea Merrill on. She's a speech coach. No, I'm not saying that right, but storytelling speaker coach. And she actually recently helped me. I had an expo and I was going to be talking in front of a bunch of people. And so she helped me create a story to share with others. And we have this Facebook group, and I've had a lot of people really asking me, like, how do I grow my business? How do I, get myself out there more? How do I, be more successful? And I think that Andrea has something that can contribute to you. She's helped a lot of people, 20 years of experience. She's got psychology and applied behavioral analysis behind her. She's helped business owners generate over 80 million of revenue. And her expertise are featured on CNN, Sirius XM, No Women, and TEDx stages. So she has a lot of experience in this field. But that's not exactly why I have her here. That's why I have her here, sort of. I also have her here because, to me, she is a gift to the world. She is empowering women and business owners to tell their story. She is, I like to call her an angel. So such a gift to me personally. And just somebody who truly just has your back. Like, she's there for you. If this is something that you'd like to learn how to do, Andrea might be your gal. So thank you, Andrea, for joining me on this awesome adventure. I can't hear you for some reason. You click the gear wheel.
Yeah. All right, can you hear me?
Yep, gotcha. Cool.
Awesome.
Okay, good. So welcome, honey. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. And Venus, oh my God, you are just such a blessing and a light. And I have been diving into your book. It's so good. It's been my nonstop read since yesterday. So thank you so much for being, having me here.
Awesome. You are so welcome. So let's just dive in a little bit to, how did you hi, Simon, welcome. How did you start being a speaker coach?
Ooh, okay. Long answer or short answer?
We have an hour, so go for the long one.
Okay. Well, hi guys. I was a previous behavior and trauma therapist for high profile cases in Arizona. And I started having severe migraines that were pushing on my eyes, that were causing me to be really, really sick. Like, it wasn't like a take a Tylenol, lay in bed type of sick. I was like put out, not okay. And what happened is they were doing process of elimination. They ended up removing my birth control, and boom, I got pregnant with baby number 5. So I am a mother of 5. And what happened was through my pregnancy, I ended up getting diagnosed with papilledemia pseudotumor cerebri. So it's a fancy way of saying I have a benign tumor that pushes on my eyes that could cause me to go blind actually being pregnant. But that ended up being the least of my worries, because I had my appendix rupture at 20 weeks pregnant with her, was in and out of the hospital, caught MRSA, preterm labor, had to have a drain placed. Like, it was more than anything, just a lot to handle for one person. So ended up, I came home 7 days out of the hospital, was so excited, and my water broke. I went in, not excited to go to the hospital. Of course, I had like PTSD. It was really not the place that I wanted to be. So I ended up coming home after having baby, and she was good. All 5 of my kids are healthy. But I came home to foreclosure, HOA auctioning off my home, and I did not want to go back to work. My water got turned off, and that was like the straw that like broke the camel's back, that I was like, okay, like, this is ridiculous. We got to do something. And it was in a very short span of having her. I had this piece of crap red van, got in it, cried all the way to the water company. Don't know how I turned the water back on, but I did. And on the way home, guys, I turned on a podcast, and I was like, okay, I'm going to start a business. And the reason that I wanted to start a business was I was helping a friend in the hospital, and I helped her rebrand her business. I helped her do her website, her SEO. We did blogging. I got on sales calls. I ended up helping her generate over $1 million in revenue, and she could barely break the $250,000 mark. So for that to happen within a couple of months was like incredible. So within the first 7 days of my business, I only had my iPhone 8. I had nothing that I could build a website on. I could do all the things that you're supposed to do as a business owner. And I was like, nothing's going to stop me. Like, nothing was going to stop me. I made $12,500 my first 7 days in business. I was a brand website designer and SEO strategist, got ourselves out of debt. Everything was amazing. And I did that for about 5 years. And about a year ago, a little over a year ago, I had burnt my $250,000 business to the ground. I hated what I was doing. I didn't want to do it anymore. I was frustrated. I was like, okay, what are the parts that I really love, and how have I helped my clients? Because I have helped them generate over $80 million in revenue and land some incredible deals. And it all came from storytelling. It all came from coming up with their marketing, their strategy, and their story. And I was like, okay, this is what I'm going all in on. And that's what I've been doing. And oh my God, it's absolutely changed the trajectory of my business.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love that story. I'm just like you took, like, in a way, you're doing what you coach, right? You're telling the story, right? Of like what. So what would you say is maybe some of people's biggest challenges that you run into when you're coaching somebody to like to trying to encourage people to tell their story?
Yeah. So one of the things is, people, when they start a business, they think that they're just starting. And I'm like, you are not just starting. You have a whole history that you haven't even talked about. But when we start our business, we often think, okay, we're getting started. And I fell to that trap, right? Like, I felt like I was brand new. I was getting started. This is new for me. Like, who's going to pay me all this money? And what I realized is, by putting ourselves in that box, in that container, we then lessen our value. And then when we get on sales calls and we're talking to people, they're like, but how much you're charging and what you're saying are so vastly different, because when you come to sales calls, you're coming with knowledge, expertise, everything that you've done, but you are not translating that into your messaging and into your pricing. So that is probably one of the biggest things that I struggle with when I start talking and I start coaching people.
Gotcha. Okay. So how do you start to encourage people to share their, like, what if somebody's like, okay, I'm doing a sales pitch or I'm promoting this class, right? And they're not telling their story because they're like, oh, I'm embarrassed, or I don't want people to think less of me,
Yeah, and this goes back to a lot of gurus tell you it's not about you. It is about you. People buy into you before they buy into anything that you sell. I will tell you that hands down. When I get on calls, they're not sales calls, they're vibe calls or they're fit calls. They are a way for, hey, how are you? Where are you at in the world? And how can I help you in your business? Like, that's what I say every single time, because at the end of the day, I want to learn about them. I want to understand them and then see how I can best support them. It has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with them. But also, when it goes into telling your story, people want to know who you are at your core, because we buy with emotion. We don't buy with our logical state.
Right. Right. It's really the vulnerability. I actually used to have a show called Being Naked, and it was all about vulnerability. And the whole point was when we're willing to be that vulnerable, when we're willing to put ourselves out there, it's like people can relate, like you said. It's like they're like, oh, this is a person. This isn't a company, that business. This isn't this is actually just a person having an offering.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I think at the end of the day, they're going to buy into what you're saying, right? It's the dream, the possibilities, the expertise, the knowledge. For me, my story that I just shared gets me clients no tomorrow, right? And it's because I am willing to be vulnerable. I'm willing to really share the deep parts that were embarrassing. I mean, telling somebody that I was in foreclosure and my HOA is auctioning off my home and my water gets turned off and I have 5 kids, that's embarrassing. That isn't something that I'm wanting to shout from the rooftops. But I will tell you, when I was trying to sell my expertise, people love expertise, sure, but when I started selling my deep vulnerable truths, that is when people were like, oh, I want some of that. And how do I tell my story in that way that's going to drive traffic and sales?
Right. Yeah. What was your biggest challenge in telling your story and making that sort of change?
I thought nobody cared. I honestly thought it's my story. I've lived it, but who's going to care? And how is this going to translate to any opportunities or sales? We're so focused when we're business owners on sales. Every day it's on our mind. What lead generation are we doing? What sales are we doing? What offers are we doing? What business opportunity, right? It goes on, it spins in our head. And then I realized that when I shared my story with people, it always led to a sales conversation. And I was like, but why? And then I went back to, I was a behavior and trauma therapist. I have my master's in psychology of applied behavioral analysis. It's all around behavior. So now I'm like, what are the statistics around storytelling?
Mhm.
I realized you are 22 times more likely to sell using a story than you are. Like facts tell and stories sell. So
Mm.
people want to feel that story. They want to feel like you're a human. Like I'm buying into a human. I'm buying into even a brand, right? Like, for instance, I love Roughing It. And when I mean I love Roughing It, I love like sleeping on the rocks, like camping. I love mud being thrown in my face. Like, I am an avid like adventurer. So, REI really is big into talking about those adventures and those experiences and personal stories. And now they're opening up this incredible place in the Grand Canyon that you're going to be able to have this whole adventure and experience. I'm like, that's a brand I'm buying into, right? Because it is with our values, our mission, vision, values. Well, what story do you have that you can really start to push that mission, vision, and values and have others feel that same experience with you? Because when you start to tell your story, psychologically, the people that are listening will start to feel the same emotions. Why do you think we get goosebumps? Why do you think we start to feel excitement when we hear somebody's story? It makes us believe we can do it too.
I love that. It's such an invitation. It's like, oh yeah, that person did that. That person turned it around. Yeah,
Right.
and so what if you don't mind, of course I don't go personal, but like what was it? I get that you had 5 kids, but before you had the fifth one, you had 4. And you had stuff going on. Like it wasn't like suddenly you were in foreclosure and suddenly they turned off your water, right? So this was a buildup, right? This was something that was happening. What was it that actually flipped that switch? Because I hear a lot of people talk about where they are and that they're struggling and that they're suffering and that, if I only understood where they were, what was going on for them. But I also have seen a lot of people like you be like, enough, and then create $12,000 in a week.
Yeah.
What was the switch for you?
Yeah, I love that you bring that up because you're right. There's always that catalyst of change. And this is not my first entrepreneurial rodeo. Like, I actually had a sewing business because I had 3 kids under 3 years old. So I cloth diapered all of them. I actually told someone that I could sew before I could even sew. Like, I never even bought a sewing machine, and they literally paid me all this money. And I was like, well, now it's time to go buy a sewing machine and buy the stuff, right? Well, I could have had this story after my third because I almost died pregnant with her as well too. Both of my daughters almost killed me. My fifth one was the worst though. That was definitely like a catalyst. So what was happening before is I actually lost my job as a behavior and trauma therapist for the state because they had reallocated funds and let go of a ton of people. All of the therapists that I was working with, everybody got let go. And I came back from the Grand Canyon. It was my first vacation that I had in a long time. And I remember it specifically because we had a $1,500 electric bill. And I was freaking out. Like, how are we going to pay this? And then all of a sudden I lost my job and I was like, oh my God, this is awful. But again, it wasn't awful like let's start a business. It was awful like let's just find another job because that's what I'm good at doing. So then I went to the prison and I started working with the perpetrators. So I wasn't just working with the victims anymore. I wanted to understand the perpetrators. So when I started working for them, this is when the migraines started happening. This is when I got pregnant with my 5th child. And then I was like, I was so stressed at that job, Venus. Like, So stressed being around prisoners. It was a lot. There's a lot of stories. And I think also, if I'm to think about it, that triggered my childhood. Like, I was a previous, and I want to say, I want to call myself a survivor. I was a victim of sexual child abuse. Not only that, I was mentally, physically, and emotionally abused as a child. So I think a lot of that came up when I worked in the prison system, but I always try to decompartmentalize where I'm working to when I come home. Like, I'm not bringing that stuff home, but of course it's got to be going on up here.
Right.
So then all of a sudden I ended up, my appendix ruptured while I was working at the prison. I got really sick. I remember going to the doctor the day before, telling my husband, like, honey, I'm not feeling really good. I'm not sure what's wrong, what's going on. And he's like, oh, you're probably fine. Well, come 2 a.m. Venus, I was on the bathroom floor beyond, I don't even remember my trip to the hospital because I was so sick. They put me on a morphine drip. And when they put me on that morphine drip, my doctor actually said, we're going to let you go. There's nothing wrong with you. You're fine. I'm like, I'm on a morphine drip. I'm in so much pain still. Like, how are you going to send me home? And then the nurse there was like, I really think it might be your appendix. Do you still have it? What's going on? Like, they haven't done a CAT scan on you or an MRI. And I'm like, whatever my husband says. Because at that point, Venus, I couldn't make any decisions for myself. I really needed to rely on my husband. Well, my husband thank God he lost his appendix at a young age. And he was like, you know what? I think it is her appendix. Let's do this. And us were allowed to. Well, I went and did it. The moment that I came out, the airlift was there already. The helicopter was there to take me out. And then through the 3 months in and out of the hospital, when I say in and out, I mean, I'd be gone for a day. I'd be sick and I'd be back in the hospital. And my husband didn't want to tell me anything that was going on with bills, anything, because I handled all of that.
Oh, gotcha.
So
Okay.
he didn't handle anything while I was gone, and everything fell and crumbled. So when I got home, all I could think of, Venus, was if I go back to a job, there is no way I'm going to make enough money to get us out of that predicament, because it was literally like they were auctioning off our home that week if we didn't come up with that money. So I knew that I had to take some huge drastic action, and all I thought was, I helped her, I'm sure I could help other people, and what's the worst that could happen? I get a no.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. Wow, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm guessing in your first week you didn't get a no.
I did not. I got 3 yeses.
Yes, that's so cool. I love
it was
that.
from people I didn't know, and it was from sharing my story. They saw my new baby. I called her my boss. She's still my little boss. And it was me just being vulnerable and being willing to share the difficult side of things. But I told them what I could help them do. And I was honest and upfront, and they were just like, heck yeah, like, I want this from you.
Oh, that's awesome. So you were, I don't think you, well, maybe you did. Did you tell them the whole story, or did you just tell them?
So I would share, no, I pretty much shared the whole story.
Okay.
What I went through, and where I got to where I am today, and how I was able, because remember, I helped that friend make $1 million. Right. I want to add that in there, and like how I helped her achieve that and how I could help them achieve getting their brand together, their website, and their SEO.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Great. Thank you so much, Andrea. We're gonna have some more questions for you, but we're gonna just take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Awesome.
Om Times TV. Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. Om Times Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, Om Times offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an Om Times magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on Om Times TV and broadcasting it across the extensive Om Times radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. Om Times. Open yourself to the possibilities.
If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour. If we could find a way to get inside each other's minds. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes. Well, before you abuse, criticize, and accuse, walk a mile in my shoes.
Hello, everyone, and welcome forward. Hi, Bob and Kimberly, and we have some people commenting. IB, nice to have you here. I know there's lots more of you out there. For those of you who might be joining us later, we're talking about stories that sell. And I worked with Andrea personally, and I wanted to share this because I don't think I actually had a chance to share this with you, but I thought this was really interesting. So I did this Mind Body Soul Expo in San Diego this last weekend, and I got up and I told my story. I was definitely somebody who was like, people don't want to hear my story. They don't, I tell little pieces of it. Oh, hi, Astra. I tell little pieces of it, but I wouldn't, I'm like, they don't need to hear the whole thing. Like, it's like, why? I didn't really have that people wouldn't necessarily care, but I think I had it like, somehow it would be taken as ego or taken as, I was bragging or, something, and instead of like, how can this contribute to others? So it was really cool to actually share my story. And what I was surprised at, believe it or not, I was surprised at the number of people who did approach me after, who are very successful in their own right. Like they, having their own, but then came to me for like readings or came to me for answers or came to me for collaboration. Hey, I'd really like to collaborate with you. And I was like, wow, I didn't realize my story, I guess I kind of thought my story might attract new people to me or people who haven't really been on the spiritual path yet. And what I found was a lot of people who were already very successful and were like, but I think you have something you can contribute to me. So that was really cool. To experience that. Yeah. And I was just like, and I was surprised too. And I was like, sometimes you meet people and they're like kind of cold or, I think everybody has walls and barriers and has their own points of view. And, and so some people who seemed that way in the beginning, after they had heard my story, like commented about how kind I seemed and I was like, wow, I was just sharing. It was vulnerable for sure, but we're just sharing a story.
So, you were booked out the next day.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And then interesting, Astra has it. I feel like my story is just perceived as evil when it was nothing but a thought. Okay. I wonder what you mean by that, Astra. By the way, if any of you would like to call in and ask questions, you can, 202-570-7057. So if you don't want to talk that out, Astra, you can call in and we can talk about that a little bit, or maybe clarify it if you have a question there. We'd love to address it. So when you're talking to, let's say, new people and they're convinced that selling their product, or even, this is another thing too that people do a lot of, like they talk about the benefits for others. They're like, this will benefit you this way. I struggled a lot with that particular one. Like, I'm like, okay, well, how would it benefit them? I don't know. Like, so maybe do you have any advice or kind of an exercise that you walk people through to kind of change their mindset to, even if some people, like with Astra, he says some people say his story is evil. Well, how do you get people to not care what people think about their story?
Yeah. So, okay. So the story that sells is like, why sharing your story is your biggest asset. So I want you to really think about this. Imagine you're at a conference or you're sitting on a sales call, and you're getting on that call and you're talking. You're about to take the stage, right? You're about to take that stage. Right now I'm on a stage. Like, there are different ways of speaking, and people don't realize that. Is I really think that it's important for you to know that the moment that you start using this, the voice, you are on stage, you're on a platform.
Right.
So I want you, like a lot of speakers, they rattle off facts, figures, business strategies, but you zone out. Like, I zone out. I'm sorry. I don't want to hear about your facts, your strategy, all the things like that makes me like, next, let's move on. Like, even benefits, like, that's awesome that it benefited you and your friend and whatever, but like, how is it going to work for me? So they need to become the hero in your story. If you have experienced benefits, if you have a story from a friend that has been going through this crazy, like, it could be a crazy story, it could be the most simplest story, but stories are what's going to sell. So it could be like, I remember the day I almost quit. I was staring at my bank account. Guys, there was only $5 left. My heart was pounding. I felt like a complete failure. But what I didn't realize in the moment was that my biggest struggle would become my biggest breakthrough. That is a story I want to listen to. What happened? What was going on? Like, that sounds juicy. So boom, that becomes a lean in moment. You feel that moment, you relate to it, and now you've been hooked. Why? Because storytelling isn't just words, it's a connection, and that's where your connection sells. So your story, I want you to think of it as your superpower. We talk about superpowers all the time, and we don't think of ourselves as like, what is our superpower? We think of it as like these crazy different things. What if your superpower is just your story? Like, what if you actually did that? Now, I firmly believe I listen to stories in my profession. So for me, going to a brand and website designer, SEO strategist made no sense. None. It was just creative. I enjoyed doing it. But what I'm doing today It makes perfect sense. I have a bajillion stories of what my clients have been through, even as a therapist. And they always drew me in deeper because I wanted to help them more. I wanted to be there for them. I wanted to help them find the right people for their world. That is what a story does for you.
That's beautiful. Yeah. It's like there is so much power in it. And it's so interesting because we're like, I don't know, just the reality is that we are taught to like hide that. Like, don't hide your shame, hide what you're embarrassed about, hide what maybe some people will judge, right? Like we're still trying to look good, avoid looking bad, right?
Yeah.
And you're just saying, put it all out there. See what it'll create.
Yeah, my favorite mantra is fuck it up and figure it out. Like, if you do that, then you are already winning because we're not told to fail. We're try and move away from that. I'm telling you, fail forward faster. Like, do that, and then also slow down to speed up. They want to know where you've been. They want to know what transformation is possible, and they want to feel something. They want to feel. I will tell you, when Venus spoke, when I spoke at this expo, people listened, leaned in, got their cameras out. They wanted to stay. I didn't see anybody leave because we were sharing that vulnerability. We were sharing that story, and we were sharing parts of our life that were like, they can relate to. And that's what we need to do. We need to feel relatable.
Yeah. Well, and Andrea and I did end up on stage because she had an experience after meeting me, and there was like so many people in the audience crying, like they were moved to tears, and I was like, that's when you know that you have somebody's attention. It's like they're like, wow, that actually like hit in my heart, right? Yeah.
It was amazing to watch them cry, Venus. If I'm being honest, like I looked over and, I was so emotional from sharing it, trying to hold back my tears. And I'm looking at everybody in the audience and they are crying, like they were sobbing. And that's when you know that you have touched somebody's heart. And that's why Venus, her next day, she was sold out. I couldn't even go over and talk to her. Every time I went, I was like, oh, somebody's there. Somebody signed up. Another person signing up with her. And it's because she was willing to share those vulnerable spots that nobody else was really willing to share. They shared more about their expertise and what they had experienced or what you can learn. Are you afraid of, even somebody talked about AI? Are you afraid of AI? Well, that's not really the best way to go about it. Talking about, are you afraid of AI? It's more around, what is her experience with AI? Was she afraid of it? And what did that experience look like? Because the audience then can feel that.
Right. Yeah. Like it's like getting personal. It's like sitting down with your friend and just being like, you're not going to tell your friends, like, you would really benefit from my program if you like I have people who work for me, and a couple of them are from the Philippines, and I'm like, I really want you to talk to people like the way that you think Jesus would talk to them.
Yeah.
Just because I know that, I'm just like, it's like your best friend. Like, talk to them like people. Like, they aren't statistics, they aren't numbers, right? So it's like like, this is the stories is part of that. It's like being willing to be like, oh, okay, I'm going to talk to this person like they're my best friend, and I'm going to share what I went through. And if that contributes to them, great. And if it doesn't contribute to them, that's also great. But it contributes to somebody else, right? And there weren't very many dry eyes in the audience after we got done talking. So, yeah. We did have somebody ask for the phone number. It's 202-570-7057. And you can call in and ask questions. We welcome them. Joseph says, facts tell, stories sell. He's quoting you. Thank you, Joseph. But yeah, there's just this willingness to be, I think it's actually something that's just missing, not just in business, but in life. Like, we're just not willing to be vulnerable and to be like, hey, I lost my house and my water got shut off, right? It's like, I turned 30 and I started seeing dead people and aliens. Like, it's like, I hid that for a long time because I didn't want to be crazy. I didn't want to be weird. I didn't want to be. And then I met Andrea and she's like, you got to tell them it all.
I saw this. Actually, I got to send it to you. I have a picture. There's this pink building in California that says Mothership on it, and it has aliens all over it. And I was like, it's Venus. Like, Venus. And like, that's what brand awareness does for you guys. Now I am triggered in my brain about Venus and what she does and what she's experienced. And now that correlates and it makes me want to be in Venus's world. And then also brand awareness is about how can I easily share my business with others? Well, if you're not genuinely connected to that business, then you can't share that business with anybody or tell them in a quick one sentence what is it that they do and what they're great at.
Right. Yeah.
So then how can you grow if you don't have a story and you're not willing to be vulnerable and you're not willing to share these deep, hard parts? Because let's be honest, are you really interested in somebody that has all their shit together? I'm not.
No.
I'm like, you're too good for me. I can't talk to you. Like, you're on a whole nother level. Like, I don't fit in that. But when I absolutely could fit in that, but they're too afraid to share that vulnerability. Now, I will tell you, it will feel very awkward when you start sharing, but it will feel very, very invigorating for yourself, knowing that you're putting yourself out there.
Yeah. Yeah, I might have shared it on here once, but I don't think I did really share that. I really think this talk was the first time that I shared the pink alien story, like, openly to like whoever was listening. So, that's funny. You gotta take a picture of the building. I can't wait to see it.
Oh, I have it. I'm gonna send it to you.
Okay, that's awesome.
I literally made my friend stop her car.
Right.
So I could get a picture of this building because you came. I was like, this is Venus. This is Venus. I got to get a picture.
That's awesome. So for those of you who don't know, I'll share a little bit of the story just because I know some of you are like, wait a minute, you haven't shared the pink alien story. So when I first started playing with my spiritual sight, I was sitting in church one day and I was like blurring my eyes so that I could see the spirit realm. And I'd see angels floating around and everything like that. And I just, out of the corner of my eye, I saw a 3.5-foot pink alien, big eyes, grabbed my friend's leg, was like, what the heck? There's a pink alien here. He's like, oh, that's Grandma. I'm like, Grandma, are you an alien? Like, it was like, of course they couldn't say that because I was in church, but not paying attention. But yeah, she's been with me since then. That I have some other images that people have sent me about the pink alien. But I thought at the time I was surprised because I had never seen a pink one. You know how you see all the representations. There's like green ones, gray ones, big eyes, and I'm like, what's the pink? Like, what is that? And then it's kind of like we all have our own skin color. It's similar. We also, there's different species of animals. There's different, right? So there's how many stars out there and stars with life on them. So.
And I loved it so much. It like drew me in, and I was like, I have to know more.
Yeah, I had people coming up to me and go, oh yeah, I've had alien experiences too. And then one gal was like, oh, I want to buy your book. And I was like, I didn't mention the aliens in that one. But obviously I have to write another book and tell that story. So
yes.
Awesome. We actually have a caller. Astra called in. Astra. How are you, Astra?
I'm doing good. How are you ladies today?
Hello.
You hear me?
Yeah, it's
Hello.
great to have you. I can hear you. Can you hear us?
Good to be here. Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Awesome. What can we do for you?
Well, I just wanted to clarify what I was talking about, and it's weird because it's something hard to talk about, but like,
this is a safe place. Like I'm telling you, you're.
I know that's a safe place. It's just crazy. So,
Ooh, I love it.
Just a crazy trauma with the source of evil or something. I guess what Jordan Peterson would say, like just something so focused on hurting something that's just outrageous. And it was me and my little brother, and like the abuse wasn't the worst part. It was whenever I was thrown outside, and like I was butt naked standing behind a tree, and the lady across the street was just standing there watching me and my brother, like not doing anything, not helping. Like she knew we were calling for help, and it's like, so that destroyed my emotions when I was a kid. So, and then I went my whole life not feeling anything, and I don't know where I'm going with this. Yeah, it's just.
You said you were standing outside naked.
Yeah, no, it's just I didn't. It's so that about 2023, I was arrested because I came across an app on the phone. It was like marketed as like adult version of TikTok, and upon download, yeah, I had issues back then. So upon downloading it, I was scrolled through videos, and after about 4 videos, it turned into nothing but fucking child porn. And then I fucking reported all the videos, and then I deleted it and went on about my way. About 2 months later, I found out that all the videos I reported were uploaded to some Google Drive on my internet, and I was arrested for all that shit. And because of my trauma when I was a kid, I thought that was the way it was, and I didn't really go searching for that stuff, but it was always in my head, but I was controlling it. Well, I thought I was controlling it, but by me feeding it with the thought of control, it was really just keeping it alive. So it wasn't about control, it was about letting go. And I went to jail for 6 days, 6th night. So I went to jail, I waived all my rights, just walked right in. Like, as soon as I fucking spoke my truth, it's like everything went away. All the weight just disappeared. And I owned up for what it was. And I waived my right to counsel, I waived my right to silence, and I just went in with it. And I knew I was going to die, because that people who do that, I mean, they may not deserve to be killed, but, you know, it goes both ways. I think that people who hurt children do deserve to be killed, but that's not here nor there. But I was certain I was walking into my death, and I accepted it. And I was talking to my brother the whole time, because he's the only one who's really talking to me. And the 6th day, I was telling him that. I'm like, I already know I'm screwed. You know, I'm not like, and I'm willing to walk that road. And so I told him I was going to waive the right to trial and just go straight to a judge. And that night, they let me out. And there's no record of any of it. It's just like it never happened. It's just poof, it's gone. And like, since then, my life's been crazy. It's been good. It hasn't been bad. It's been great. And I'm blessed, and I'm grateful for every second that I'm able to breathe out here in the sun. But it's just like, there are people out there that they think that there's some way that they're not, and it's just a thought. You know, by them controlling the thought is keeping it alive. So they feel like people need to know that it's not about control. It's about letting it go. It's about talking about what happened to you. And like in the past year, I wrote a book that's called Madman's Guide to Galaxy. I learned gratitude. I learned so much in this past year. But above all, I was able to fix myself without seeing a therapist or anything. It's just like you meditate. You meditate on what it is you want to know, and everything will come to you. And it's like, it's just.
I think a book,
it all works out.
Right, is through death comes life.
I'm all over the place. Say again?
I think you should write a book that says through death comes life. And the reason that through death comes life.
Oh, that's true.
Because what you had experienced as a child, what you had experienced through this, downloading it, so many people are susceptible to downloading an app, it putting viruses on their web or on their computer. What you have been through, so many people can really relate to that story. You are not the only one that has this story. I'm telling you that through me being a previous behavior and trauma therapist. I've heard this story over and over and over again. Thank you so much for sharing it and the vulnerability, because what you had experienced, you are strong and you are capable of everything that you have going for you. But I would start sharing this because you are powerful. You have a message that you can share, and you can build a business off of this.
I mean, I could. It's not about the money. I don't care about the money.
Nope, that's not the point.
I want to help the people. I know that's not the point. That's just me personally.
Yeah.
But it's like, I know there are others out there that was like me growing up who like think that there are a perception of something that they're not because of something someone else did.
Yeah.
And like I just want them to know that they can just let that go, and it's not them. And it's just a thought that they just need to let go.
That's beautiful. I think you have an incredible story that you should really start sharing. So one is start with the moment that changed everything. 2, I want you to focus on the transformation, not just the struggle. 3, I want you to keep it simple and emotional driven. And I want you to test this out loud.
Okay. Hold on. Let me write this down real quick. I gotta write everything down. My mind is always a mile a minute. Never stops.
You sound like my brain.
Yeah. I mean, I was texting my friend whenever you guys were talking, and I was telling her about how it's not about me, because she's all like, everyone's someone's villain in someone's story, Joey, and I'm all like, oh no, I said my real name. I'm just kidding. But and I'm all like, well, it's not about being the villain. It's about being the hero. And right as soon as I typed that to her, Andrea she said about the hero, like right word for word, second for second. It's like it lined up perfectly. And I'm all, well, that's what I'm supposed to do right now.
I love that. Oh, I got goosebumps.
I try to organize my thoughts. Say again?
I got goosebumps when you said that.
That's a touch of the divine. Venus, I want to thank you for everything you do from your point. It's been amazing. You've helped me a lot.
Oh, thank you, Astro.
Your little dandelion whispers have pulled through at the best times.
Oh, you are so welcome. And we're running a little bit out of time, Astra, so I'm not going to have her necessarily repeat that, but you can definitely listen to the replay.
I got the idea of it.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate this, ladies.
Thank you so much for calling in and being vulnerable, and that really was a gift. We're so grateful for you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. I'm grateful for you as well, Venus. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Simon. You guys, I love you. Crystal, I love you all. Thank you so much. And Andrea, really, truly, I mean, that was beautiful. Like, what a great example of like, tell your story, whatever your story is, write a book, share it with people. share it with people from the vulnerability to invite them to a different possibility. Like there's different things that we can be doing and helping people. And it's not, for a lot of us, it's not about the money, but sharing our stories can change the world.
Yeah. I believe when you speak, you generate more revenue, which generates more impact, which generates more opportunities for you to change more lives. And it's constantly going around.
That's amazing. Well, thank you, honey. So grateful for you. Thank you, everyone watching and listening now and in the future. Love you all. See you again next week. Bye.